How different looking do two women have to be before it becomes gross negligence for a cop to get them mixed up? I mean, do they have to have different eye colors, hair colors, skin colors? All of the above and more were different when 49-year-old Nickie Sledge was arrested almost a year ago. And now she claims she'll be filing a lawsuit against the sheriff's office that wrongfully arrested her. Hey, I'm America's attorney. I've been a lawyer for over 24 years. I've helped almost 3 million people. Let's break down Nickie Sledge's crimes, the other Nickie Sledge's arrest, and the impending lawsuit. According to online reports, Nickie Sledge is a 49-year-old grandmother who is black. That detail is very important. From Lithonia, Georgia, described as a hardworking, tax-paying citizen and community volunteer. She actually sounds like a way better person than me. Her attorney reports that for roughly 2 decades, she's operated an HR consulting business, Insure Your Future, based in Georgia. She's had a stable professional life, no criminal history, and no ties to the underlying case that would later entangle her. On December 21st, 2024, she was spending a normal evening out watching a movie with her 5-year-old grandson when deputies with the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office approached her in the theater parking lot. According to reporting, she was lured outside under the pretext that her vehicle had been struck in the lot. Once outside, she was told she was under arrest. However, the warrant that led to her arrest was not for the grandmother at the movie theater. It sought a different individual entirely. The document named a 43-year-old white woman, also called Nickie Sledge, from Covington, Kentucky, accused in a Cherokee County Sheriff's Office investigation of elder abuse, neglect, or exploitation of a disabled or elderly person. Nickie Sledge's attorney says that she had no history of violence and has never lived in Kentucky. It didn't say she had never been mean to an old person, but probably not. According to her attorney, the warrant was sworn before a magistrate and executed by deputies who transported her in the early hours of the morning from Rockdale County Sheriff's Office custody to the Cherokee County Detention Facility. She was strip searched, booked, and held under the wrong identity for 3 days. So this question remains. How did the warrant and identity verification system miss so many red flags? And I suppose the other question we could ask is the reason these cops couldn't see that they had the wrong person was that they had their heads so far up their own butts? Let's take a moment to look deeper at this warrant and the allegations brought against the bad Nickie Sledge. According to online reports, it stemmed from a 2023 investigation by the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office into alleged elder abuse, neglect, or exploitation of a bedridden elderly man in Georgia. The report identified the suspect as a white woman named Nickie Sledge, aka Bad Nickie, approximately 43 years old. According to the file, the couple allegedly took advantage of the victim's vulnerability while his wife was hospitalized, using his credit card to make about $3,500 in purchases at a Walmart. And I promise you, I knew that this story was going to involve Walmart somehow. Anyways, despite being pursued by Georgia law enforcement, the suspects reportedly left the state and were last seen in a motel in Florence, Kentucky. The investigative images and video stills described in the file showed 2 white individuals, a fact that was clearly inconsistent with the person eventually taken into custody, aka Good Nickie. In short, the warrant sought a white couple from Kentucky suspected of preying on an elderly, disabled victim in Georgia, not a 49-year-old black grandmother from Lithonia, Georgia. Yet the latter is what the system acted upon, and of course, when I say the system, I'm actually talking about some idiot cops. Once the Good Nickie was booked into the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office Detention Center, she began reviewing the case documentation herself. Once she looked at the warrant and supporting reports, she noticed that the suspect was described as a white woman, explicitly, and 43 years old, not her age. She pointed out to the cops this mismatch and informed these jailers that she could not be the person described. Eventually, a judge reviewed the file, noted the descriptor discrepancies, all of which diverged from Sledge's identity and background. And at that point, the court ruled that the charges against her would be dismissed. Official records show that by February of 2025, basically 2 months later, the charges were formally dropped. And though she walked out of jail a free woman, the story doesn't end with a clean slate. The attorney representing her, Harry M. Daniels, has indicated that legal demands will be made on behalf of Sledge, the good one, and that a civil claim against Cherokee County is likely. So what does the civil claim look like? Well, based on the facts reported by credible outlets, Nickie Sledge and her attorney could pursue several potential civil claims under both federal and state law. At the federal level, her strongest claim would likely arise under 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, alleging violations of her Fourth Amendment rights against unlawful seizure and the 14th Amendment rights to due process and equal protection. These claims would target the officers and counties involved for acting with reckless disregard of obvious mismatches. Again, we're talking about race, age, residence, when executing the warrant. At the state level, she could file for false arrest, false imprisonment, negligence, and possibly intentional infliction of emotional distress, asserting that authorities failed to exercise ordinary care in verifying her identity before detaining and transporting her across county lines. Depending on the evidence, she may also allege malicious prosecution if officials continued holding her after clear exculpatory discrepancies appeared. And it's actually funny to say that the discrepancies appeared because they were there all along. Remember, wrong race, wrong age. Furthermore, her legal team could invoke a Monell claim to argue that systemic training failures or identity verification policies within the sheriff's offices caused her wrongful arrest and detention. Nickie Sledge's chances of obtaining a settlement, I think, are relatively strong given the compelling optics and documented mismatches between her identity and the warrant. Courts and counties often prefer to settle mistaken identity cases to avoid the reputational damage and litigation costs associated with Section 1983 civil rights trials. If her legal team can show that deputies ignored clear red flags, or if I could say like clear melanin in her skin, a settlement could easily reach the mid to high six-figure range, comparable to other wrongful arrest payouts in Georgia and neighboring states. However, achieving a liable verdict at trial would require overcoming qualified immunity, a doctrine that shields officers unless their conduct clearly violates established law. Her chances improve if her attorneys demonstrate a pattern or practice of similar verification failures or show that county policies lack proper safeguards for confirming identity before arrest and transport. In short, while qualified immunity remains a hurdle, the evidence of negligence appears strong enough that a negotiated settlement is far more likely than a full trial, especially given the public backlash and media coverage already surrounding her case. Now, I, for one, would love to be in the courtroom when the good Nickie Sledge and the criminal Nickie Sledge sit side by side to each other and the lawyers ask the cops, hey, which one of these is which?
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture.
I mean, I don't know if they'll ever figure it out. The arrest of Nickie Sledge exposes several troubling process gaps that law enforcement agencies in Georgia ought to fix. Deputies executed a warrant without reconciling fundamental identifiers. The warrant specified a white female subject, but Sledge is black. The suspect's age was approximately 43 and based in Kentucky, while the good Sledge is 49 and lives in Georgia. Yet despite these glaring discrepancies, the arrest proceeded, suggesting that identity verification protocols were either not followed or were insufficient. In the Sledge case, the process breakdown may have included a failure to cross-check the suspect's social security number, date of birth, and photograph against the arrest records, or to halt the execution of those until the checks aligned. Well, the result was an innocent grandmother jailed for days, while the real suspect remained at large, probably remained at other Walmarts. The story now moves from outrage to accountability, whether through a civil rights lawsuit, internal reform, or hopefully both. What are your thoughts on Nickie Sledge's arrest? And how can the Cherokee Sheriff's Department possibly make this right? Hey, do me a favor, drop your pro se opinion down below in the comments and let me know what you think about this case. And don't forget while you're down there to hit that subscribe button and lawyer up with me, America's Attorney. I'll be back soon with more legal breakdowns, and I hope to see you then. How did the warrant and identity, who was approximately 43 euros, in short, while qualified,